Welcome back to another episode of the Easy Button Real Estate Podcast. Today I have an exciting episode, and it's the first one we've filmed in this new studio, which is awesome, and in Carlsbad, a little north where we normally film. Today I have with me a client someone that's been a kind of a pillar in our community for a while. He is one of two brothers that are part of the same company. His name's Sean Hallahan. He lives in LA, but they operate out of Connecticut with Clover Real Estate, doing flips, doing wholesale deals. They also have a rental portfolio. Super excited for today's show. I think it'll be very relatable. Sean's newly left his W-2. So without further ado, let's get right into the episode. Well, Sean, thanks for coming down to Carlsbad, man. Gloomy day today. Drove down from LA, but why don't you give everyone a quick elevator, 30-second, 1-minute overview of who you are, how you got into real estate with Rowan, your brother, and what you guys got going on now. Just brief intro, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty.
Yeah, sure. So started, my real estate journey kind of the typical way. Read Rich Dad Poor Dad, actually got into the BiggerPockets community, moved to LA. My wife got into a school out here, so moved to LA, realized it was a bit out of reach. So ended up partnering up with my brother, who is still in Southeast Connecticut, and we started picking up rental properties. So we got a 3-unit to start, and after that one moved on to 2 single-family homes on a single piece of property, and we ran out of money. So we yeah. So we had kind of
passive income, right?
Passive income, yeah. So we were we kind of had 2 options. We could either start raising capital or find a way to generate some active income. And at that point, we kind of just pivoted into doing more fix and flip deals. So over, the next 2 years, we picked up 3-4 properties on market and flipped them to generate some income. And at that point, we ran into kind of the next big constraint, which was deal flow. So, competing on market with, people that were doing their own renovations or, cash buyers. We didn't have those efficiencies in our business. We were operating with hard money. Our contractor network, we were building it out, but, it was still more expensive than someone doing it themselves. So we needed some proprietary deal flow. And that's kind of when we pivoted to trying to build out an off-market acquisition channel.
I love it. So the journey started with, like it does for a lot of people, you guys reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, being in BiggerPockets, saying, man, we're going to go buy 5 rentals and sail into the sunset and leave our W-2s and get rich forever, right? Which I think is one of the big misnomers for people that maybe are earlier in their journey. And we were talking before the show because, you came in like, I don't know if I have the portfolio or the background to do a show like this. And I think what a lot of people get wrong is for most of the population, doing 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 deals a year is like the dream, right? So people out there listening, you don't go buy, and I had a similar experience, you don't go buy a duplex or a couple of duplexes and now you have 20 grand a month coming in passively and you get to leave your job and sail into the sunset and drive Ferraris around California, right? So what Sean's describing is a very normal entry, right? We talked about this yesterday on a show where I call the first part informed optimism. So they were in a BiggerPockets podcast. They were in the forum. They were tinkering with Rich Dad and Poor Dad, learning about building wealth, real estate. That's uninformed optimism of holy crap, we're gonna get rich. This thing's gonna be amazing. And then you get into this informed pessimism part, which is wait, this is a little harder than we thought. We're not making as much money as we thought. We're actually having to put money back into our rentals because the HVAC broke or there's a plumbing issue. Actually, we're losing a little bit of money here. Then you kind of get into the valley of despair, which the valley of despair is really, is this really for us? Should we just stick with our W-2s? This real estate thing seems awesome. Is this all a scam? Is this just a dream they're selling? And then if you stick in it long enough, and I'll say you guys are kind of in this spot right now, which I call informed optimism, where you've seen how hard it is, you've been down on it, you kind of dug in, and you guys realized, hey, we need to find a way to get deals if this can be successful at all. And now you guys have done some flips, done some wholesale deals, and now you've also left your W-2. So I think that parlays us well into the next point, which is once you guys realized that you needed deals, what was the journey there? What did you have to learn? And I know you've been an Easy Button client for a while now, but what did you have to learn to not only get leads in, but then convert those leads and start thinking more like a business owner rather than, hey, we're going to get rich off of rentals?
Yeah. So in terms of like off-market acquisitions and what we needed to learn, we dabble in a couple of things. We tried some direct mail when we were both at our W-2s because it was less hands-on. The leads we thought would just come pouring
passive
in.
Income.
More passive income, trying to take the easy way out. But eventually, because that was a little more capital intensive, we switched over to cold calling. So got a dialer, started making our own cold calls. We were doing, 100 dials a day, getting a ton of rejection, but we were able to generate a couple deals through that. So, 3-4 deals through our cold calling. And we realized like this was a channel that could work for us. But, we're spending hours and hours and hours making hundreds of dials to just talk to a couple leads. So we really that was kind of the marketing side of it, going outbound, trying to, just say, hey, we have a product you might be interested in.
Yeah.
And
sell us your house. Sell us your house for under market value.
Sell us your house for under market value. Yeah. So we really had to learn, like that was our first introduction to sales and marketing. I come from an engineering background. Rowan's also pretty more technical. He was an engineer as well before this. So sales was totally foreign to us. And so, just learning that. So, going through as many resources as we can. And that's actually how we came across Easy Button as well.
Yeah. How did you find out about it first? Was it a Facebook ad? Was it my Instagram? Was it?
It was, so I heard you on the BiggerPockets podcast originally. And then it was through your Instagram.
Okay.
It's, kind of the promise of it was you're essentially hiring cold callers, except they're trained up, they're good, and they're able to just send you inbound leads. So that, that really kind of changed things for us. It allowed us to have actual conversations with people that said they were interested in selling and get reps in, because like the biggest thing about learning sales for us has been getting the reps in. And when you're making 100 cold calls, you're maybe talking to 1-2 people. You don't get as many at bats.
A lot of people, when they start working leads for their first time, right, and they try mail, they try cold calling, and they go on this, I call it the lead flow carousel. As you try every marketing channel, you go, man, the marketing channel is the issue. Oh no, okay, mail didn't work, but that's not because of us. Let's try cold call. Oh, cold calling didn't work. That's not our issue. Let's go try pay-per-click and then pay-per-lead, and then you go on this carousel. What flip switched for you guys to really you're both engineers, right? So if any of you guys are watching and thinking you can't close deals, I kind of have more of an engineer brain myself. I didn't have a sales background. I had to get deals closed myself. So what was the flip that switched for you and Rowan when you're working your own pipeline to start actually converting some of these leads that you're getting? Because I know at the beginning it took some time, right? So what was those few things that really, I think, helped you guys conceptualize what sales in real estate looks like, what it looks like to build relationships with sellers and get deals across the finish line?
My kind of perception of sales going into this was a little different. It was kind of pushing a product. The kind of way we found success was just, shutting up, actually listening to them, understanding what their problems were, and providing solutions to those specific problems. We've dealt with pre-foreclosures at this point, been able to stop a foreclosure for someone. We've had probate deals, that people just have a house, they live out of state, they don't want to deal with it, they don't want to list it on market. We've had people that have been trying to retire and move down to Florida, for example, and but they didn't know the Florida market too well. So like we helped hook them up with a real estate agent. So it's just like adapting to whatever they're saying their issue is, what their concerns are, understanding, digging for that motivation, understanding what their fears are, and helping provide a solution that solves for those issues.
I think that's one of the switches that when people actually start doing deals consistently, that's how most people, I think, would conceptualize it. They realize one way or another that they're not there to use car salesman techniques on a homeowner going through some kind of situational, psychological, or emotional distress, or a combination of all three. They're really a solution provider. And early on in my journey, when I was 20, 30 transactions in, and I was really trying to figure out the sales side, that's what was told to me by a good buddy and mentor of mine who's ran a really big real estate business for a long time, was, hey, you're here to provide solutions. And that solution can be helping them find an agent where they want to live. We've done that. Can be actually identifying a rental property, paying their first month rent, paying for a moving company, paying for a self-storage unit, hiring an attorney for them if it's a probate situation. So that's the biggest unlock. I think anyone, if they're going to be successful with this, is, and the best closers I know in this business, they're so good at building relationships and putting the person in their situation first. And then you talk about numbers and terms and stuff later, but it's not as scary at that point, right? Because you have some rapport. So walk me through the first couple of deals that you guys were able to get under contract from Easy Button, from our leads, what that process was like, how you were able to push those across the finish line. And then we'll talk a little bit after that about kind of your transition out of your W-2, why you thought it was the right time, and things along that line. So let's just start with those first couple of deals you got from us. What do you think was as you got those done, pushed those deals over the finish line, what were those deals like? Talk through that a little bit.
Yeah, so I think our first one, it didn't happen immediately. So we had our CRM set up, we got our phone system set up, leads were coming in, we're getting on the phone with them trying to, and this was, a lack of sales skill probably, but just talking with them, just, building relationships, getting out to the property, meeting with them, showing them that we are real people. And our first one was a person that was a guy that was trying to move down to Florida. So his wife wasn't on board initially. Rowan went out to the property, kind of talked them through, how we could help them, help understand, how this move would actually happen. We would pay for moving costs. They could leave everything behind that they didn't want because they were worried about, they have too much stuff. We don't know how to get rid of it. Those kind of things. So, and that happened over the course of, 3-4 months, consistent conversations. It was weekly follow-up, or, if they needed a little more time, give them a little more time, like respect what they asked for. But also, don't let them slip too far, and really building those relationships. So that was, I think, the first one we closed from Easy Button, and that ended up being our most profitable flip ever. So that was our first 6-figure flip, not having to compete on market and kind of driving down those margins. We were able to, buy a property at a good value, put together a good project plan, and execute it.
And I think that's a lot of people want to, the first thing you said, which is we sucked for a while, we failed for a while. That's the part I think most people want to skip. And they want to, there's funny enough, our name's Easy Button. They want the easy button. They want genuinely hey, I press this thing and the perfect lead comes in and like one call close them. And I think the willingness to go to properties you shouldn't be going to fail. And I mean, you guys have showed up to so many community calls, so many coaching calls, and over again, hey, I went to this appointment. What did I do wrong? Hey, I made this call. What did I do wrong? And you've taken the business seriously. And I think the clients we've had that are with us for years, or the people that I came in with the business with a decade ago that are still in the business, that have built a significant net worth, that have built the cool business, that have done a lot of deals, they just take it seriously. And when you take business seriously, you don't think of it as a get-rich-quick scheme. You think of it as, hey, clearly I have a skill deficit because there's other people that are successful with this. What do I need to improve on? And then the end result of that is now you're making offers on deals. You're not competing with anyone, or at least you're not competing with the whole market, and you can find the $100,000 plus profit deals, even in a funky market. And you guys kind of got in this game in 2024, 2025 in terms of active flipping and wholesaling at scale. I would say in my decade in this business, the hardest period. Where interest rates are higher, it is more of a buyer's market in most places. Yeah, you can still get deals sold in 45 days on market with a little bit of concessions in some places. But what I tell people right now is like, you're building the foundation and still doing well, but building the foundation so when rates come down in the 5s or 4s, we get back into a seller's market, whether that's this year, next year, the year after, you're in a position to really take advantage. And then $100,000 flip is going to be your normal deal because you have the system machine to source the deals. You have the understanding and business acumen now. And then when the market aligns with you guys, that's when people go on a crazy run and, double or triple their net worth in 2 or 3 years and grow their business and grow their team. So those are your first couple deals, 6-figure profit flip. So when did you decide to pull the trigger? A lot of people watching the show are in real estate and have a W-2. They're buying rentals and they have a W-2, or they're doing flips, they have a W-2. A lot of our clients have W-2s and are still crushing in their business. So talk to me about that leap of, it's a big psychological leap, but that leap of leaving your W-2 to focus full-time on Clover Real Estate with you and Rowan. And what do you think pushed you over the edge? What were the fears that you had? And what ultimately let you wake up one morning and say, no, today's the day I'm going to send a notice that I'm leaving this job?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a big psychological leap. You're going away from that security of getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. What it took for me, and credit to Rowan. Rowan left his job before I did. What it really took was just a couple of proof points. Just doing a deal or two, or understanding that we could close an off-market deal through our own cold calling, just showing that it was possible, and that if we were able to shift our focus from just that part-time before and after work to really full-time and give it the attention it needs to actually grow and flourish.
Well, what did your schedule look like when you were working the W-2 and trying to work on the business?
Yeah, so being on the West Coast actually was an advantage here. So I would start work around 6 a.m. and I worked with Rowan from 6 to 9, and then I would go to my W-2 from 9 to 5.
And it was in person?
I was at a WeWork, yeah.
Okay.
So,
but 5 days a week in the office?
Yep, 5 days a week in the office.
Gotcha.
yeah, I wasn't doing much real estate work during that 9 to 5. And then after hours, I would, be underwriting, be doing anything that you can do async.
But I mean, you're still putting in 3-4 hours a day towards your business. Yeah. And I think you guys listening that are working at WT, you want to make the leap. In 30 minutes a day, you can't really build the momentum you need. And you don't need a lot. You just need a couple of deals, you need proof of concept, you need confidence to make that leap. And was it the psychology part of it, of like, I'm sure, I know you and your wife discussing it. What was the psychology part of that decision to leave and go all in on the business? Like, what was the ultimate frame you took? Was it, hey, I can always get another job, so who cares if I fail? Was it you just knew that this thing was going to work? Like what? Because I think that's the ultimate piece. You can have the cash in reserves, you can have done a few deals, but then there's that part of like, the logical part's taken care of, but then it's that like, what's going to happen if this goes wrong, right? So what was your frame you took on that?
Yeah, so obviously I had to build up the savings, had to get my wife on board. Yeah. She's super supportive, so it was great to have her. But I think for me it was, regret minimization. It's if I look back in 20 years, I'm going to be mad that I, took this leap and tried that out. I do think I could get another W-2 job if I decided, this isn't for me. But, there's nothing wrong with a W-2 job as well. I will say, like, after having left, there's a lot of great things about it. There's, there's the security. There's, you're not stressing as much about, when your next paycheck's coming in, but it also lights a fire under you to try and go get that next deal. But yeah, I was thinking about, okay, when I'm old, am I going to be mad that I did this? Or, am I going to be kicking myself if I didn't? So, and I just kind of came to the conclusion that, old Sean wouldn't want to.
I love that. It's hard to bring the future into the present that way, but I think it's a great unlock. And you guys out there listening, I think it's thinking through your business, and like, there's really no true one-way door decision. Like, there was no, hey, I'm going to leave my job, and then if this doesn't work, I'm going to be homeless. Like that's how I think that's the human brain thinks, but that's not reality. You can leave your job, you can try, you can go back. That's what life is. So, well, I think one of the things that, as I talk to people about that conversation about as they build their business with their W-2, there comes a point when your W-2 is losing you money because of the money you're making. And like, you're in 3 hours a day, you guys are doing deals. So imagine with 8, 9, 10, 12 hours a day. So you guys out there, if you're making money in your business and your W-2 you feel like is losing you money, that's generally what I see is a great time to make that leap. But let's talk about what you guys are building now. We've talked about the leads we've given you guys, how you've worked those, the psychological frame around becoming good at sales, going through the pitfalls, taking business serious. Let's talk about where you guys are going now. What do the next 12 months look like for Clover Real Estate? If we were sitting here in this incredible studio 12 months from now, looking back, and I asked you the question, was this year successful? What has to happen in the next 12 months for you to feel that way?
Our priority and our focus this year is building out that consistent off-market acquisition channel. And what that looks like is we want to, one, ramp up our skills in sales and marketing. So doing call reviews, getting on the phones, just building that base so we know what good looks like, and then hiring a team around that so that we can then kind of move up into working on our fix and flip operation. Solving that problem. It's never going to be fully solved. You're always going to have to work on that. But building a team around our off-market acquisition so that we're consistently getting 1, 2, 3 deals per month that we can feed into our fix and flip business.
What do you think your biggest constraint is today, sitting here, that's in the way of that, like that next thing you guys have to tackle? What's the biggest thing?
Yeah, so for a while it was leads, and we actually ramped up our easy button investment, and we're getting 4 to 6 leads per day. Right now our biggest constraint is our sales skills. So just being able to, close these deals. We're getting good leads in. We're losing out to some other wholesalers and competition there. We're getting some deals, but I know that just seeing industry benchmarks for conversion rates, that's kind of our biggest constraint. And whether we solve that through improving our skills ourselves or hiring an acquisition manager, that's one route we're exploring, but that's where we're looking right now.
Yeah, because you kind of have the engineer background like me. I went and hired a salesperson as soon as I could. That was like a career salesperson. It was a huge unlock for me. I think that's what really pushed me from like a deal or two a month to like 5, 10, 12 deals a month, is I went and found a guy who was like a good salesperson and loved, not just good, because you can get good if you hate it, but loved it. and all they wanted to do every single day is spend their time getting better and on the phones. And so that could be a massive unlock for you guys. Definitely could talk about that, how we can help you guys find that person as well. But guys, that's where you guys are headed. Do you have a revenue goal? Do you have like, hey, in the next year, we want to do X amount of revenue. We want to create X amount of profit. We want to buy X amount of flips. Do you have that tangible? Like, do you have a goal for that?
Yeah. So for 2025 through the end of the year, our gross profit goal was 300K. Kind of pencils out with just the two of us working. We don't have a lot of operational expenses. So aside from the marketing expenses, that leaves us with about 240K in net profit for the year. And then, going forward, we're looking at, and we look at kind of on a reverse engineer it based on the number of flips we need to do. We are wholesaling a couple of deals if they're out of kind of our range. And so we're trying to move up to 500K in 2026 and keep those. I mean, we'll lose a little on margin there, but improve that up to 300K in net profit per year by the end of 2026.
I love that. That's awesome. Well, question that I always ask our guests when they are active clients of ours is, who do you think is the right fit for Easy Button Real Estate out there if they're thinking about joining, getting leads, getting coaching, getting services from us? Who do you think is a good fit for Easy Button? Raw, honest, open. Who do you think is a good fit? Who do you think is not? If it's no one, it's no one. If it's everyone, it's everyone. But if someone was asking you, hey, Sean, am I a good fit for Easy Button? What would your advice be to them?
Yeah, it's going to be someone that's willing to put in the work. It's not a super high conversion business. Like we're seeing like a 60-to-1 conversion. So you're going to get a ton of no's and you're going to have to get on the phone and do the follow-up and put in the work. They're not just going to be layups. You're not just going to get a lead that comes in the door and says, I'm going to give you my house. So I'd say someone that's willing to do that and get on the phones, work the leads, go out and meet people in person. They're going to find success with Easy Button.
I love it. What about if they have a team, in the sense of they have 2 salespeople? Do you believe, I guess it's kind of the same, if they take the follow-up seriously, it's kind of the same answer, right?
Yeah. If they have a sales team, they're going to crush. I mean, we're doing pretty well. And like I said, we're still level ropes. 1 of sales. So if they've got sales professionals, they'll be able to close it. The leads that come in are people that have raised their hand and said they're willing to sell. Just finding the right fit for them and making sure you're solutions oriented, you're going to be able to convert them.
Love it. One last thing as we head to the end of the show is, if you were telling someone who's working a W-2, who's trying to buy their first rental or get into the real estate game, and you were at Starbucks with them one morning, they said, hey, Sean, like, what is your biggest piece of advice for me? Trying to get into real estate. I'm working my W-2. I have this dream of being self-employed and making my money in real estate. What would your one piece of advice be for them? So
you're going to consume a ton of stuff. I would say, underwrite 100 deals, 200 deals, especially like if you're getting into a rental property, so you understand kind of the P&L of a rental property. But at a certain point, you just have to kind of take the leap. It's never going to feel good. It didn't feel good the first time for me. I was scared shitless, but you just need to kind of get over that initial hurdle and just jump in. Easier said than done, but you can plan and procrastinate as much as you want, but you're going to learn more on your first one than you will from reading all the books in the world. So
just diving in.
Just dive in.
And willing to fail. Cool. Well, thank you guys for hanging out for another episode of the Easy Button Real Estate Podcast. My man, Sean Hallahan with Clover Real Estate in Connecticut. Awesome guy. They've been a great client. Super excited to watch them continue to grow. As always, we don't grow this show through paid promotion. It only comes from you sharing with your friends, family, coworkers, and that means the world. So reach out, leave a like, a share, a testimonial, a review here on wherever you listen, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else. And until next time, remember, you're only one deal away.